Hitler wasn't the smart man in the outcome. The in-between the lines in history that their marriage of a police officer and 3 inmates who helped conduct his government statues by sending him to be imprisoned with them for a number of days, so meditation and connection with them would be strong for their third eye, Ajna chakra, release mental tension, and shift into a state of higher consciousness. Due to reasons of money and building up after financial banks began to fail with overexpansion and a Wall Street crash, as the gold was being stolen from the Jews in the likeness of the alien encounters and the gold rush era in America. Hitler's murder-suicide when he was not wanted in other countries after control was established, others needed to eliminate him. Possible for him having to many connections through meditated marriage and losing his mind. With meth being a mental abuse system for the Jewish Holocaust as still seen throughout the war on drugs. In Jewish mysticism, the third eye concept aligns with the spiritual faculty of God, knowledge perception, or the mind's eye rather than a physical third eye, being around a group thought along as a defense and meditation, as what is happening in America and sociology, and why conspiracy theories are used as a cover-up. Germany was dependent on USA loans. Who helped the reign of Hitler in 1933? The 30% unemployment rate in the Depression began then. This began to change through America, and after its 1920s scattering, unemployment and bank crashes were developed throughout the country, and Wall Street failing are described through history. While the use of spiritual and technology ran throughout American brains, the overload crashed America with loans and overuse of money for investments. Small towns crashed in the industrial business aspect during these times as America was robbing banks, if paraphrased, or conspiracy, if the word history isn't wanted to be used. For a future war after frequencies and spectrum was being studied for inventions in all areas of humanity. While Hitler was stealing gold from the Jews, he was gaining loans in the United States in 1933 to fuel his wars. After the 1900s, when the third eye was transitioning from ancient text and spiritual use into Western occultism. This was the turn of the 20th century. The Great Scattering, when urban neighborhoods were in a destruction. The Roaring 20s, Western cults and dramatic social changes became a poverty-wealth war. Spiritual and religion against wealth and their third eye. Not only was there a war in the world of World War I and World War II, there was a war on spectrum and the pineal gland of American Bufu. By UFC Chaos. Bios FCKU. Cults not described with outspoken vocabulary, as was in between the lines of The Wizard of Oz and its political films on SHH, and the need to combat oppressive forces. Aliens and war surround each other throughout history as the human population was trying to keep their use of the third eye from being known. This was a war of sociology and groups described by other groups as cults. The third eye and ghost today is described as the phantom drumming in the Civil War, also known as technological IR. Since 1988, when the Kodak camera was invented from those studying spectrum, an enhanced battlefield of physic phenomena, ghost soldiers. The Cold War physics spying with the third eye. The case of Hitler and conspiracy theories is the Jews and Mexicans overwhelming Hitler with the third eye till his murder-suicide was his death. His downfall of Mexicans in a concentration camp as they studied concentrating with the third eye, and travelers to South America, being moved from another country after death, are some conspiring as he searched the world for wisdom with his 3 wise men and voice of God, then placed on the sidewalk with a photo of him. Kodak camera spectrum would suggest he was killed from other countries' voyages and listening, learning information of those. Becoming too wise as Tupac, and his photos broadcasted throughout America, followed by conspiracies. The Great Depression after Hitler's death is still a war through race, religion and politics. Or spectrum technology and frequencies creates war. The gamma and third eye of Jesus still being fought over as was with the Roman Empire, becoming a murder-suicide in American streets. The scattering of urban sociology. Today we have safety nets in wealth and global trades that change the way people see the poverty. Also a downfall on America and its own country trade system. The railroad was failing during the Great Depression. The railroad again in the 70s was an impact on the United States. Repeating history from 1873 to 1877 and its banking errors and the first railroad. With alien abduction being noted along the railroads where poverty rests today since the railroad has declined. And aliens have been able to be surveillance more through technology. Depression and then a decline after the highways were being built in America. The road and trade doesn't care. Drugs and aliens traveling. transportation for multiple use, a system to overcrowded for trade within our own land, to many people cause war. These declines have been since 1920 and our own country's decline for our own transportation and economy. A possible alien abduction of America forcing a global trade, an efficient supply chain for Americans, while urban towns and cities that surround the railroad become ghettos and ghost towns since its decline. Ecofecology and travel was the failure of Hitler and his voyages for technology and the Third Eye wisdom, and the American overload failure for America as we moved too fast to become a world trade economy for consumer goods, farming and small town mom and pop stores around the world selling farm and agriculture became abducted from ourselves. Today's train rides and bus transportation leaves you in a ghetto or small town with an overlay, a base image the military had forgotten and men left behind. The Third Eye leaving sociology with groups classified through wealth and cults, i.e. rivers and water being the main consumption for humanity to survive. The definition of overlay: cover the surface of something with a coating, something laid as a covering over something else. The process of transferring a block of program code or other data into internal memory, replacing what is already stored. A history of the Great Depression and alien invasions surrounding wars throughout the world of all political influences and spiritual beliefs. It's a Wizard of Oz when using a quote as race, religion and politics is war. Described in better terms as a war on spectrum technology and the Third Eye. Alien evasion of the Great Depression was of America and Mexicans trying to reduce the labor competition. Aliens and Martians connected through a lens of the Third Eye and Hitler death in South America as a conspiracy, with his body being moved with a Kodak photo style assignation of murder-suicide. And era of UFO attacks, UFOs, ghost plans and later to be described as fly saucers. A Germany and alien war, an American and alien war, American, Germany-Mexican war, a war on spectrum and frequencies and the Third Eye, and the Jewish gold slogan for wealth in Roman times. Conspiracies and the FBI, sire going with technology with the Third Eye today as they continue to leave America with conspiracies throughout history, and their use of Italy after the mafia became the United States Police Department's only line of defense for overcoming the Italians. To beat the mafia you have to become the mafia, to win a war on the Third Eye, and the war of Germany, America and South America as War World II instead of just German and American battles in a world war. South America is not mentioned and conspiracies surround the death. The military had to be the Third Eye and voice of God, as was Hitler and his three wise men imprisoned and police officer with their broadcasting. Moroni description as a cyberbully and dangerous tool. As the world's voice of God takeover was to build pressure throughout the world America to those who are whistleblowers and activists against the mafia-style governmental system we have today. That is surrounded by the Third Eye of sociology and groups some describe as cults. The Great Depression, the Italian Mafia era and Hitler all was built around radio frequencies and the Third Eye with wars evolving around them as they still walk the earth as the flood waters have receded in search of wisdom and power of groups at war. The same outcome of conflicts were in Italy during 1920. Intense domestic social conflict, strikes, and factory occupations. A Great Scattering Depression, the world of scattering war, the Great Scattering, and as with others claiming that Artemis would take the air out of the room. Italy Ray was described by journalists as suffocating control. Don't forget to breathe. Frequencies that fill the air in closed rooms or airplanes as they build psychological kidnappings. As our main broadcasters use frequencies that has changed our world forever through wisdom of spectrum inventions. And the electromagnetic field that has disrupted our animals' hearing in nature and humans as we have seen the alien files of Bufu. And when they say they put too many people on you. Meditation and technology conspiracies and murder-suicide deaths.